The City of Victoria Planning Commission to order. Before we take up our first agenda item, I'd just like to make a quick announcement. I believe originally the Cypress Grove preliminary plat was scheduled to be on the agenda today, but that was withdrawn. So if anyone's here for that purpose, it will not be taken up today. I apologize for any inconvenience. Okay, the first matter on the agenda is approval of the meeting minutes from our April 18th regular meeting. Has everyone had a chance to review them? Any changes or corrections? Could I have a motion?
I move we do.
I second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to address the commission on any matter that's not on today's agenda? Seeing none, we'll move on to development reviews and formal action. I believe the first one is variance request for warehouse distributing.
Good evening, Commission. This is a request for two variances at 1915 North Navarro, which is warehouse distributing. It's very similar to a request we had for Harbor Freight about a year ago, if you'll remember. The applicant in this case is requesting a building permit to add a canopy onto this site. They originally had some temporary type carport structures that were damaged during the Hurricane Harvey and were removed, and so they want to add a more permanent canopy back in that location, which of course triggers a site plan. With that site plan, we look at how the site conforms to the current ordinances and how it does not, and in doing so, we realized that a sidewalk would be required on East Red River Street, as well as a new driveway to replace the existing driveway on East Red River Street. And rather than make those improvements, the applicant has chosen to request a variance for those. The ordinance does require that non-conforming driveways be replaced during the site plan process, and of course sidewalks be constructed. In this case, it's not the location of the driveway that's the issue, it's the design. It's an old driveway that is not concrete and does not have the correct radii going into it. So staff's recommendation is actually for approval of these two variances because the East Red River, this section of East Red River is in our city's capital improvement program to be reconstructed in the next few years. With that reconstruction, the grade changes of East Red River would change significantly and would cause the new work to have to be reconstructed at that point because of the complete overhaul and rebuilding of the East Red River at this location. So staff does recommend approving these variances, and that would be a variance to allow the driveway to remain and the applicant to sign a sidewalk agreement and covenant rather than install a sidewalk as part of his canopy project. And this does require a public hearing.
Okay. We'd like to open a public hearing on this agenda item at this time. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to address the commission on this agenda item? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing and ask for any questions or deliberation from the members.
I have one question on the sidewalk. It says in your comments, it says additionally at this time a sidewalk is not proposed as part of the CIP project due to the right-of-way constraints. So right now they couldn't build a sidewalk anyway because of right-of-way?
Right, so with the current design, there's not enough room. So anytime in the future, if a replat were to be required and right-of-way dedication would be required at that time, we might, long-term in the future be able to have enough right-of-way, which is why we're recommending the sidewalk agreement and covenant be filed. But yes, at this time, that project does not include a sidewalk. It does show one across the street. There is enough right-of-way to put it on one side, and it will be it's proposed to be on the north side.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Do we have a motion to adopt the variance, approve the variances?
So moved.
I second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And the second agenda item is the preliminary plat for Terra Vista Subdivision phases 10 through 15.
So as you'll see, we do have a request for preliminary plat for an additional 6 phases for Terra Vista subdivision, which encompasses approximately 38.815 acres. This property is off of Ball Airport Road between Millette and Glasgow Street. I believe this subdivision, this preliminary plat is proposing an additional 150 single-family lots for the continuation of Terra Vista, and staff finds that the preliminary plat is in conformance with all of the city's ordinances, regulations, and master plans, and does recommend approval. As with it being a preliminary plat, it does also require a public hearing.
We'll now open the public hearing on this agenda item. Is there anyone in the audience that'd like to address the commission on it? Seeing none, we'll go ahead to deliberations. Does anyone have any questions, comments? 150 new spots. Could I have a motion to adopt the preliminary plat, right?
So moved.
Or approve the preliminary plat, sorry.
So moved.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the third item on the agenda is a preliminary plat for Lake Forest Subdivision, Section 2, Phases 3 through 6.
So this is another preliminary plat for an additional 4 phases for the Lake Forest subdivision. And those 4 phases are proposed to be over 27.36 acres. As you'll see, the subdivision is continuation of the existing Lake Forest subdivision, or it's continuation to the east of the existing Lake Forest subdivision, which is located just east off of Nursery Drive or US Highway 87. The northern boundary of the proposed preliminary plat is the future expansion of Ball Airport Road. And again, this preliminary plat does meet all applicable ordinances, regulations, and master plans, and staff does recommend approval of it, and a public hearing is also required for this.
Okay, at this time, we'll open a public hearing on this agenda item. Is there anyone in the audience wishing to address the commission? Yes, sir. If you come to the front and your name and...
My name is Richard Jones. I live in Lake Forest, and one of the concerns that we have is around drainage in that area. The drainage is already pretty bad where we live, and I'm just curious how the drainage system will be handled with the new roads and things to help alleviate some of the situation that's out there.
Julie, do you have anyone that can address that?
No, the construction plans, which do include drainage, have been approved by our engineering department. So I can pass on those concerns to our city engineer. If there's existing failures or issues with our existing drainage system, we can also pass those on to him.
Okay.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Okay, let's go to deliberations.
wait.
Oh, I'm sorry. Please come up.
I'm Merle Thompson, and I wanted to find out the water tower that is not working in our area right now, and we're getting water from elsewhere, when that'll be finished, and if our new addition can handle all of that, and just what the timing is on that, because it's a problem.
I've seen them working on it, but Julie, do you have anything on that?
I would have to confirm. I'd have to confirm with Public Works. I believe the project is scheduled to go throughout the end of the summer. But we can confirm again with Public Works that's existing infrastructure and doesn't affect the new infrastructure that's proposed. Do you have an exact date?
I don't have an exact date. I believe the contractor was supposed to be complete by the end of May. There have been some delays, and I have not gotten a report this week to know exactly what the date is, but the project was supposed to be completed during this month, and they are finally making some progress on the exterior, so that's the latest I have right now. And it certainly, once that tank is back in operation, there's not a capacity issue for this neighborhood or any other. Thank you.
Thank you.
At low water pressure? What's the problem? Low water pressure?
No water pressure.
No water pressure.
You take a shower and it just shuts off.
Yeah, Yes, sir. It's inconsistent because of the way that the water's having to be pumped from different directions while that tower is out of service, being repaired and repainted and overhauled essentially. So yes, there are issues with pressure, both low and high pressure, depending on where you are, in association with those mains that are now feeding the subdivision from directions that they usually are not being fed.
You want to address that? You're shaking your head back there.
Yes, sir.
Well, please.
Yeah, my name's Ron Foster, and I live on Woodbridge Drive, and this is not because of the water tower being worked on at the present time. This has been going on for about 7, 8 months. I've gone down to City Hall, and they said, you need to hire a plumber. There's no need to hire a plumber when I know it's not feeding to our house when you're standing in the shower, and it just totally quits. It's a real quick fix. This is not a subdivision problem. This is a city problem. And we're paying high taxes, we're paying high water bills, we're paying everything we can do on our end. We just want to be sure that we get what we have coming to us. I don't think anybody on the council would like taking a shower and then it just shuts off. You have no way to clean the soap out of your house or anything. It's a huge problem. This is an ongoing and they just keep pushing us off.
Ron, just a suggestion. Ron. Have you spoken to your city councilman at all about this? I would. I don't live very far from you, and now I know why my water pressure is cutting on and off. I was kind of curious myself, but that's what I would make a suggestion. If you're not getting satisfaction the way you are, I would address your city council.
I'm not satisfied at all. We pay good money for a subdivision, good houses, and we need to be entitled to the city water that we had anywhere else in town. So if you tell me who the city council is that I need to talk with, I'll be more than happy to visit with him. But this is several people on our street have already addressed this problem. So I felt like, well, everybody else has complained about it, so why do I need to go continue complaining since it's already been addressed? I mean, if it's been addressed and not taken care of, there's no need to keep addressing a broken problem. We just need to fix the problem.
I don't know.
Davis?
I developed Lake Forest, and this problem, like you said, has been going on for about 9 months. I agree with that. I called down to the water department and talked to them, and they told me, the city water department told me to call a plumber, and I said, I know better than that. So I went down and talked to the people in the department, and they said what's happening is at certain times of day, they use so much water, it comes all the way from behind Popeyes, the water tower there, where the Texas.
On the Vera Street.
Yeah, right. And what happens is they let it get low and it starts cavitating. And when it does, it sends that compressed air through there and it comes out. And that's what's happening. When your water stops and you don't get anything and all of a sudden it comes back, it's because of that cavitation is what it is. And I asked them how long would it be, and they said they'd be through in May, and mine has kind of stopped, but every once in a while, and why is it always when I want to take a shower? I don't know, but it is.
It's just really inconvenient. Like I said, the cavitation, and you go to flush the toilet, it sounds like the toilet's going to explode.
Well, the first time, I thought I didn't pay my water bill, and they shut it off.
Yeah, my wife can call me about that,
Yeah, on it. But that's what it is, the water tower. As soon as they get through, we got pressure out the gazoo whenever it's working. Real good pressure out on our side of town there, because of that water tower. But it's just the fact that they're having evidently to do something inside for the water, because evidently there's no water inside, and it's coming all the way from over on Navarre Street. And it's just that water tower can't handle it. So that's what they told me, and that's what I assumed was wrong. So that's all I know. But I followed up on it, and that's.
We have been checking on it, Mr. BJ, but like I said, this has been going on well before the tower even got inoperable, where they weren't working anymore.
So, Mr. Davis, is it fair to say the problem will be resolved? It's just, as far as the timing goes, it could be a month, 2 months, 3 months?
Well, I don't know. I mean,
I understand.
The water department. I mean, is what I'm saying. But the thing about it is, we've been out there 17 years and we hadn't had, or 19 years, I guess now, and we haven't had any problems. And all of a sudden they cover up the water tower, and we have all these problems and everything. But they've got some of the fire hydrants out there with plastic around them. Why? I don't know, but they do. So, maybe we need to, I would talk to the water department.
I did talk to the water
Oh,
department.
you
They just
did?
pushed me off. Yes, sir, I did.
Well, it kinda like they did me,
Yeah, they
but
blew me
I
off like,
came
hey,
down
we
and
got other
talked to them.
issues. We have a great subdivision in a nice neighborhood,
Yes,
but we just need to be entitled to the city services everybody else in the city of Victoria
right.
gets. I mean, I'm not asking very much, and I don't want to ask more than what I should get. I only want to make sure when I get what I pay for. And that's very reasonable as far as I'm concerned. So I don't know who needs to settle this issue, but for the sake of our neighborhood, I wish somebody would help us from the planning commission fix this. Because I've done everything I can. And I have no other direction to go. And I'm sure other people living in the neighborhood. I'm not alone. So thank you for your time. If you could help, I would appreciate it.
Well, we can certainly pass on your concerns and the issue to the people that we think can do something about it, which would be the city water people and city council.
Thank you. That's all I'm asking.
All right.
Just fix it.
Thanks, Ron.
Thank you.
All right, is there any other discussion? Is there a motion for approval of the preliminary plat?
So move to
Second.
approve.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. So our next agenda item would be the final plat for the Lake Forest Subdivision, Section 2, Phase 3.
I believe actually the next, I'm sorry, you're correct. So this is just a additional phase of the Lake Forest subdivision that is being requested for final plat. Mixed up my papers, but staff does recommend approval of this phase, finding that it does meet all applicable ordinances. We do have the adequate amount of infrastructure in the area. With this final plat, you will see the dedication of the extension of Auburn Hill, a new street, Silver Lake, and then the extension of Black Rock to accommodate these lots. And staff does recommend approval of the final plat. It does not require a public hearing.
Are there any questions or deliberation from the members? Do we have a motion to approve the final plat?
So moved.
Second. It's been moved and seconded. All in favor of approval of the final plat, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the next agenda item is the final plat for Springwood Medical Plaza 2.
So you may remember this preliminary plat from our last meeting. This is a final plat of the Springwood Medical Plaza 2, which encompasses the commercial lots that you saw on the preliminary plat last month. So there are 4 proposed commercial lots with the extension of a new street, Spring Green Boulevard, that is located near the intersection of Springwood and Nursery Drive, just north of that, near the DTAR North Medical Center. Staff does recommend approval of this final plat, finding that it does meet all applicable ordinances and regulations. And it does not require.
Since this is a final plat, we don't need a public hearing, correct?
Correct.
Any deliberation from the members on this final plat? Kind of went through it last time when we did the preliminary. Do I have a motion to approve the final plat?
I move that we approve it.
Any second?
Second.
I've had a motion and a second. All in favor of approving?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the next agenda item would be the final plat extension for Lake Forest Subdivision, Section 1, Phase 6.
So the subdivision ordinance requires that plats be filed within 2 years after their approval. We have the expiration of the final plat for Section 1, Phase 6, and the applicant and developers requesting that it be extended for an additional 2 years. Staff finds that the conditions in this area haven't changed, and we do recommend approval of the extension.
I don't believe we need a public hearing on this one also either. Is there any discussion or recommendations? Do we have a motion on approving the extension?
I move that we approve it.
Second?
I'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes. Other business.
You'll see we had a very busy month on our Development Services Monthly Development Report. We processed 3 minor plats, 4 major plats. You just saw 3 of those, and again, the Cypress Grove subdivision was withdrawn. And we processed 6 site plans. The variance request from last month is being forwarded to City Council, and they will make a determination on that request at their Tuesday meeting. Again, we also show a busy month with our monthly activity report on our building permits. But as we'll see all year long, our year-over-year numbers continue to be down because we had such a large volume of permits after the hurricane. And then the last item on the agenda is our agenda format. Tonight, you'll notice we approved minutes and 3 final plats. If you can remember back when our city attorney and I did the presentation on the difference between our subdivision and zoning and the state law, you may remember that we talked about plats being ministerial actions, meaning that the Planning Commission has to find that the plat does not meet city ordinances in some way to offer a reason to deny that final plat. Because the final plats go through sort of an extensive staff review before through our development review team, which is all the different departments that have a say in the administrating the subdivision ordinance, such as Public Works and Planning and Development, and even Health Department for those plats outside of the city limits. You know, we do a thorough review of all of those subdivision plats. So we are requesting, I want to talk about in the future, putting the final plats plus routine items such as minutes on a consent agenda. That's similar to what City Council does for their routine items. And so if we had the consent agenda tonight, 4 items that y'all took up, the minutes plus the final plats and even the extension could have been taken care of in one action. And of course, with consent agendas, you can always have the option if you want to discuss an item in more detail or take it up that one item, you can always request at the beginning of the meeting to pull that item off of the consent agenda, or you can even discuss, if you have a simple question on an item on the consent agenda, it could be posed during the discussion portion of the consent agenda motion. So,
Well, even if you had them all grouped in one agenda item, I would think that any commissioner could ask a question about any given portion of that item.
Yeah, during the discussion of the consent agenda.
It just facilitates time-wise, I guess, going through the motions of what is a ministerial act.
So.
Does anyone have any comments about that change?
I don't.
Okay.
Okay. Well, we'll try it out and see how it goes.
Are there any other items from the commissioners?
I have, how are we going to follow up with those gentlemen?
I've received their contact information. We'll pass it on to Public Works, and we may be able to do some sort of announcement or mailing or something about the project, the water tower project. We'll have to confer with Public Works Department. That's their project. And
so you would do a mailing, or maybe you want to send Julie an email or something? Maybe so you can get an answer?
About the new schedule so everybody sees it?
We'll definitely pass on the concerns and the fact that maybe, you know, how we can notify the residents of Lake Forest or maybe even the greater area to Public Works. I'll discuss that with their director tomorrow.
Okay. And your concern was about stormwater drainage, though, correct? How would we, same thing?
Yes.
Okay.
All existing infrastructure is maintained by our Public Works Department.
All right.
Maybe it'd be nice to have a follow-up on it at our next meeting, just to see what happened, who was contacted.
Good idea.
Yes, sir.
Say something on the stormwater?
Sure.
Here a couple of years ago, we had a pretty good size of rain, and I was called by one of the engineers and said that you've got to go out there and you got to redo all your drainage and everything because it's not adequate enough, you know? And I told him, have you driven out there and looked? All that water that was dumped to our subdivision out there came from between the railroad track and Nursery Drive.
I bet it did.
All
Yeah.
right? It went across the street, went down, it turned, and got on Green Gable, and it filled that street up. I went out, I came back an hour later after it stopped, and all the water was gone within an hour. But the deal is, the city needs to do something about all the extra water coming down there. Now, they told me back in 2006 that when I donated the land for Ball Airport Road, all right, that they were gonna cut a ditch down through there and relieve some of that water. They ain't done it yet, and I've asked them about every 3 or 4 years, when are they gonna do it, you know? And it's not gonna get any better. It goes into Tropical Acres, and it also goes into Woodway. And it looks like a canal, you know, over there. So I understand the man's complaint, and I've complained too. But after I saw that, I called Ken Gill, and I said, I'm supposed to take care of all the water in my subdivision. He said that was right. I said, well, what do I do about the water that's being dumped in my subdivision? And so he was gonna check into it, and he was honest about it. He didn't realize that, but that's what it was. That's what I saw. And I don't like it, but the city's got to do something about it.
Remember the time you're talking about?
Can I say something?
Sure, why not?
And I agree exactly with what you're saying, BJ, around that, because I lived there at the time, and I saw right there on Arbor Lake, and I saw that happen. But that's not the issue my concern is.
Okay.
My concern is that field where you're planning to develop drains through my backyard.
Whenever we do this next phase, we've got on that one going back on Auburn Hill on that side
Right.
there, we've got an extra drain that we're putting in when we
Good.
do that, and it will stop that.
Because
I
after the
told him I had to
hurricane,
have it.
it was weeks. My
That's
backyard
right.
was mud.
I agree with you.
My dogs were dragging it into the house.
That's exactly right, and I agree with you. But
Okay.
we have it in the what we're doing, and we're going to take it up.
Okay.
And it's a 2-inch line, and it goes over to Auburn. What is it? Arbor Lake. It goes over to Arbor Lake and dumps into that one there because I checked it out, and it's there, and we've got it. It's in right now. It's only in the first house back there, but it's going to go down there. It's going to go all the way back to all the way up to the Highline wires.
Okay.
On the back side of the property there on Auburn Hill. And it will go all the way up there, and then from there, the water breaks over and it goes the other way.
Okay.
But that's, yes, I agree, and I've been fussing about it, you know.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Is there anything else?
I might suggest, since this meeting is taped and it's on YouTube, you can go to the city website and be directed to it. Some of the powers that be, city councilmen and so forth, can listen to the discussion that we've had this afternoon and get a pretty good idea of what's going on. I would certainly suggest that when you're talking to Donald Reese or whoever's in charge of public works and so forth, and some other city councilmen, have them review this meeting.
It's a good idea. Anything further? Then we'll adjourn this meeting. Thank y'all very much.
Thank you.